Hello, Joey Korn, and welcome to Wisdom Keepers. We're so glad that you could be here to share with us your story of who you are, where you came from, your dowsing experience, and the wonderful stories of helping others to really advance in their awareness and spirituality through your dowsing. And for those of you that don't know Joey, I have a little bio here I'd like to read, just a little bit of information. Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing and energy clearing. And he actually loves teaching others how to use his dowsing and combined simple blessing process. He had a powerful mystical experience. Hopefully we'll get into that. Joey has been teaching Joey, dowsing for 40 years?
I've been dowsing for 35 years and actually teaching as my full-time profession, teaching and offering dowsing services for 25 years.
Oh, okay. Well, you have plenty of experience. That's why you're a wisdom keeper. So basically for the last 6 years, Joey's done full-time work, and he's been helping people throughout the world doing remote work. So he's been able to enjoy that from the comfort of his home. He and Jill conduct seminars in their home, but lately you haven't. Are you gearing up to conduct another seminar?
Oh, we did two even during, did two in last May and last October.
Uh-huh.
And we've already done one this year, and we've got two more scheduled.
Oh, okay.
One is like a bonus schedule, a bonus one that we threw in, and we're throwing in November just for a special group of people.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, what we do is we stay here, people stay in our homes with us, in our home. So we can only fit in the people into a retreat that we can house. We cook all the meals for them ourselves, and we call them gourmet dowsing retreats because I love to cook. And I always told Jill, if we're going to have retreats, we're going to serve good food. I'm not going to take them to some cafeteria or something, or order in whatever. We're going to have good food.
Great. Well, we'll tell the audience how to sign up for the gourmet seminar.
We are just outside of Augusta, Georgia.
Okay. Well, I would like to mention that you wrote a beautiful book called Dowsing: A Path to Enlightenment, and you have videos, and that book is available, and you do teach that in your seminars, correct?
Well, the book is following my journey of dowsing, how I learned to douse, and then I follow sort of chronologically what I learned and how I learned progressed along the way to get where I am now. And
that's wonderful.
And the last 5 chapters I added in 2013 to complete the book, because it's been an ongoing progression through the years. And it's really my basic understandings of the way they were in 2013, but they've even progressed much further than that now. And there's an article in my website that gives a good description of my work. You can find it at dowsers.com. The first post on that page takes you to an article called Things That They'll Bump in the Night.
Yes, I've read that article. So, Joey, one of the things I wanted to talk about with you is how you came about bringing this idea of heightening the idea of a blessing process that could essentially cover and change energy for pretty much everything, and how you decided that was that. And I mean, we all pray, right? We all know about prayers, but what makes the blessing process so powerful?
Well, there's a difference between blessing and prayer, the way most of us are taught to pray. So let's say how I brought it, why I brought it into the dowsing world. I learned to douse in '86 from just somebody to help me find my septic tank. And I'd been interested in dowsing ever since I was a child. because I saw it on old Westerns and other shows. One was on Gunsmoke. Happened to catch that.
Wait a minute. There was an episode on Gunsmoke where someone was dowsing?
Yeah, it was called The Dowser, I think, the episode. And believe it or not, it's the same guy, I forget his name, you might know it, that plays the $1 Million Man.
Oh, yes.
And he was in it.
Chad Everett, right?
Yeah. Oh. And at the very end, he used dowsing in a very interesting, no, it wasn't The Dowser. That was the newer movie. But anyway, it's also in an old episode of The Real McCoy's Grandpa did dowsing. And I thought, well, I got to have a fork stick from a willow tree, which we happen to have. I went and cut it. It didn't work. I had another willow tree at our family lake house. I went and cut the fork stick and it didn't work. But I wasn't holding it right when I finally learned how. And so all those years, I really wanted to douse from childhood on. And then our septic tank stopped up at our family lake house. And two professionals in the sewer repair business came out and couldn't find the septic tank. And I called the soil and conservation of the waterworks department. And the guy who answered laughed and said, "No, we don't do that. We do like municipal water systems." But he said, "Tell me where you live and I'll come up there and I'll find that septic tank." Within 30 minutes, he came up and he was like the old traditional dowser, an old country looking guy, rolled up in his pickup truck, opened up his toolbox in the back and had, two bent up brazing rods, welding rods. And he started walking. He didn't tell me anything. He just started walking along the inside of the house. And I thought, wow, he's dowsing. When he got to the end of the house, those rods just opened up like that. And he turned, like this. Here's a pair of my rods right here. And they just opened up like that. He immediately stopped, turned, and walked away from the house in line with that line. And got another reaction about 10 feet or so out. And I said, "Look at those holes." The other guys were looking all over there for it. They couldn't find it. They had a rod too, but it was more an iron T-handle rod to push down in the ground to the ground and get a knock on the septic tank lid. And I said, "It's not there," because they looked all over there. He said, he didn't even pay attention to me. He went and got his shovel. It was just much deeper because of erosion through the years. And it was right where he found it. And I said, "You've got to teach me this." And he helped me understand what to do. He showed me first, and then I was able to do it. And then he told me an easy way to make rods out of bent up coat hangers. And I went in and he left. I immediately did the wire coat hangers, bent them into shape and cut them so I had two L rods. And I was immediately able to douse. Except I didn't, what I realized much later, whenever I learned anything in dowsing or any other thing, I don't just keep doing what I'm told about, what I'm taught. I immediately want to take it further. So I thought, I wonder what else I can douse for. So I started dowsing around the house, just for whatever I could get reactions to. And every once in a while I'd get a reaction, and I realized it was to electrical fields. And then I went outside and I doused and I walked and all of a sudden my rods opened up. So I walked past that and walked back, and this time they closed. And I was, what is that? And I looked up and I was right under a telephone wire.
Oh, that's wonderful. So your curiosity just took over.
Curiosity is what, and my quest to understand of everything. And so then I became a passionate dowser. I was dowsing all the time. And all my friends and family had to learn because I made them learn, at least to get a dowse reaction. And then I got into space clearing or energy clearing. And
who did you first learn your energy clearing work from? Do you remember?
Yeah, his name. Sure, I do. His name is Bob Slack. Actually, he's deceased now. But I actually dedicated my book to him, the very first version and all the future versions till the latest edition, the current revised edition.
Was he like a neighbor, or did you meet him at a conference?
No, I learned about the ASD, and I called them and asked them for a dowser from Georgia that I could call and learn from.
Oh.
And he lived in Northeast Georgia, which is a few hours away. And I called him and he said, sure, I'll teach you what I can. Come up and visit. So I met him and his wife, and we spent the day together. My wife came too. He taught me some stuff that seemed so far out.
At the time.
And on the way out, he said, wait a minute, we're walking to the car. He said, stop a minute. He said, did you know that if a well goes dry or you get a dry hole, you can actually hammer a rod into the ground and move a stream into that well? I said, no, I didn't know that. And we walked off, and I said to Jill, this guy's wacky. But guess what? Then I went to my first Dowsing conference shortly after that. And the first night before the actual conference began, there was a panel discussion. They were all professional dowsers. And you know what they were discussing? Diverting underground streams into wells.
Wow. And
he also designed my dowsing rods that I have. They're basically the same, except the better ones, the portable ones, are made, the antennas come off and collapse, and you fit them in a pouch. And then you can carry them around in your pocket or your purse anywhere, where the other ones don't come apart. And
those are easy to travel with on airplanes too, I find.
Yeah, well, just to be safe, I put it in my luggage, because people want to know, what is it? What are these? When you go through,
you don't want to leave them.
See it.
Yeah, you don't want to leave them.
I used to travel. When I traveled to teach a lot, I'd have a lot of pendulums, even though I don't use the pendulum at all anymore. And there's one called the bullet pendulum. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
They really questioned that. They said, what are you doing with these bullets?
Just
take it apart. Let me show you. Just take it apart. It's a dowsing tool. It's empty. There's a little hole in there. Anyway, they let me go through with it. Right. But I just avoid all that. And anyway, the only thing I travel and I teach, when I travel anywhere, even on vacation, is a pair of rods, because I'm clearing. I have to clear people I have to clear some of my clients. I'm working with clients every day, no matter if I'm on vacation or not.
Yes.
When they need me, I'm there.
Tell us the journey that took you from, I consider what you do almost health dowsing, because you're clearing energy, you're helping people, almost at a psyche level, a thought form level, which impacts the whole physical system. So what made you decide to jump from water and energy clearing or house clearing to working with people directly?
Well, I was taught, I went to a conference in 94. In 96, and that was in Vermont. 96 was the first dowsing conference where I actually spoke, because in the few months before that conference, I made a couple of findings that I knew was new to the dowsing world from going to the first conference and reading several books since then, which was the first conference 2 years before. And I knew this was new to the dowsing world. One of those things was I began dowsing inside. I was interested in dowsing outside because I was taught that the beneficial energies are outside in nature, and you go to special places like, in a mountain or a stream, on a mountain, on a stream, artesian wells, where the water comes up by itself. Looking for what it's called, the dowser, and sacred places around the world, like what people call power spots, and looking for those. And then it occurred to me one day, I must have energies inside too, and because they're all out. I found so many in my backyard, And
when you say inside, Joey, excuse me. When you say inside, do you mean inside your person?
Home.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I had learned that the energies related to us and the energies related to the earth were separate and distinct from each other from other dowsers. They call the energy problems geopathic stress. The ones are earth energies in our homes that serve a function in nature, but they affect us negatively. It's the way geopathic stress is taught all around the world. Until 14 years ago, I just believed that the personal energies that I was finding, one of the first new things I found and shared in the first talk was I found a pattern of energies repeatedly, same pattern around everybody's bed. And I knew it had to be an imprint of the people, their energy patterns imprinted around the bed. That's the first thing one of the first things I found that I knew was new to the dowsing world. And it's now central to all of my work, which we can discuss a little. But what happened, even until just before we moved into this house over 14 years ago, I was still, even though I was doing remote work, I thought that personal energy were separate and distinct from the earth energies. I thought that personal energies need to be cleared and with blessing for people, and the energies of the home need to be cleared with blessing for people. But then everything turned around. Once I moved everything turned around 3 months after I moved into this home. Things changed dramatically when we moved here. So I think this home is very special for me and my work. I was teaching in Houston, and I was teaching a lady the way I normally do. When I do in-home on-site sessions, I'm not just dowsing and clearing, I'm teaching, because I want to empower them, to make them empower them keeper of your own energies, And I had doused all the energies of the home, and then I took her to, douse the energies around her bedroom. And I didn't find any significant problems there. Then I said, do you have any other beds here where people might stay? She said, yes, the guest bedroom. So I doused around that, and I said, oh, well, this person, I'd say, which I can't explain in a few minutes, has significant energy problems. She must have a lot of problems in her life. Well, she did. And I have a way to balance those energies with a blessed object. I bless an object to put on the bed to balance any imbalances in the bed pattern, which also imbalances a person's human energy pattern only while the object's on the bed. And then I told her, it's getting to be a long story, but I told her, I forgot, I left my water in the kitchen. Let me go get the water. On the way, I just was dowsing, and I realized the energies we found in the home that were detrimental, that I considered to be earth energies causing geopathic stress, had all cleared. And I brought her out, and she doused all those energies too. That's the way I do it. I teach them to do the dowsing, and she found they had all cleared. And I said, what is that? Why are they clear? Then I realized we are causing the energy problems. When I'm clearing homes for space clearings, what I'm really clearing is the people in the home, their energies, their energy patterns, and then because I've learned that the energies of our homes are reflections and extensions of the energies within us. And so I call it spiritual space clearing from the inside out.
That's brilliant. That's a brilliant thing, because oftentimes we look at the negative side and something outside of us. It almost makes us like a victim instead of saying we're responsible.
And protect, right, from the earth energies.
Yes.
How can the earth, every other spiritual teaching says that earth energies are good for us. They're here to support us. God, our creator, God or whatever God is, our creator, put them here to support all of life. Why do the dowsers think they cause problems for us? And so what I've learned is when those earth energies are out of balance, what dowsers call Hartman and Curry grid lines, I call them checkerboard and diagonal grid lines now, because that describes very well. They're about 6 foot apart. Make a checkerboard in your home and a diagonal grid in your home. If those are out of balance, especially the diagonal grid or the curry, another energy is causing it. I call it interference energy. That is the primary energy that I clear in every single session that I do, because people attract it when they enter in intense negative modes of mind and emotion. Yes. As a result of their traumatic events, their stresses and strains of life, especially their traumatic events. And who doesn't have somebody in their home that hasn't been through some life crisis? A health crisis, or a breakup in the family, or many other things, mental and emotional problems, like autism or Alzheimer's. Those people went often through those life circumstances. We attract this energy that I discovered about 14 years ago again, that we attract it to us. It then reflects and extends out into the home and causes all the energies of the problem of the home to be out of balance, including what Dowsing, most space clearers call geopathic stress.
Wow.
The earth energies are detrimental or out of balance. It's not because that's not the cause of the problem. That is a symptom of the problem. They're out of balance, as well as the people, because of the energy that one or more people have attracted to themselves that have extended out into the home.
And I wanted to ask you, and when I see this the way I think you're seeing it, what I see is that wounded energies sort of attract wounded energies. So if someone is suffering, right? If someone's suffering, they're putting out this energy, whatever it is, whether it's anger, frustration, sadness, grief.
Right.
And they're attracting that.
One of the most common things that attract it is, one of them is a health crisis. But it's not the disease that attracts it. It's the person's reaction to the disease. So two people can have the same disease, the same amount of pain, if there's such a thing, and the same misery of the treatment, like chemotherapy, and same whatever. And one might attract and one might not. And what I think happens is when we get into these intense negative states of mind and emotion, we open I call it a crack between the worlds, or the dimensions. And energies in the next dimension, what some call the astral plane, can connect to us. That's what I call interference energy. It physically connects to us. Then it sets up, reflects, and extends out into the home, and sets up in primarily, for some reason, 2 bathrooms and a closet. Don't know why exactly. I'm learning all the time. But it sets up as vertical columns of energy. And that can all be found with dowsing. All these energies. Dowsing is much more than finding a lost object or asking yes/no questions and getting information. I don't do that at all anymore. I get lots of information, but it comes from tens of years of exploring the energies and 26 years of talking to my client, or whatever number of years, 24 years of talking to my clients about what's going on with the people that I've identified have interference energy. That's how I learned all this stuff. So
I want to ask you a couple of questions, because I'm like going in deep. I'm hearing you, and I'm like, oh,
we're going farther than we wanted to go. At this point.
I wanted to ask you 2 questions. One is, I noticed that a lot of your work is based on the tree of life.
Yes.
From the Kabbalah, right?
I didn't base it on the tree of life. Let's put it that way. I should have something show. Anyway, I could show you something real quick. What happened, that pattern that I began finding around beds in 96, through the years, when I found that, it was around all of our family's beds, and I had only found a portion of the pattern. But I knew that was something. Again, there's something unique about this. Then I went to my family's homes and dowsed their beds. and I doused my friends. So let them go. They let me go in their homes, and I doused around their beds. And then when I started teaching and going into homes, teaching with the space clearing services that I used to do more on site. Now I do it all remotely. I would find sometimes more of the pattern than other, or let's say I found more and more of the complete pattern until 99. I realized another revelation just came to me out of a meditation that I was doing. I woke up out of the meditation. My meditations are more like naps, but I don't go fully to sleep. My wife and I have been doing it together. I've been doing it for 40 years, but my wife has been doing it with me since 87. Or also, most of the time we do it together. But anyway, I came out of a meditation. That's when a lot of my ideas come. And something told me to pick up this book that I had just bought from a speaker that came through teaching about Kabbalah, which is the essence of Jewish mysticism. I'm Jewish. And I had this compulsion to pick up any book from one of those books that I bought from him and open it to any page. And it was chapter 7, which I immediately thought, and it would tell me something about my work. It would give me insight into my work. And the whole chapter seemed to be talking to me about my work. And I thought I'd gotten the message that I was supposed to get. So I said a little prayer of thanksgiving. I remember tears, my eyes were tearing up. And then I closed the book and I got the real message. And if I can get it.
We're excited to hear about this. And I love this idea. Oh, look at that.
It's hard to see the colors.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But that's basically the bed pattern. And what I realized right away, the bed pattern, it might just be the tree of life, because the tree of life was on the cover of that book.
So I want to note that the bottom of it would be the bottom of the bed, and the top of it is the top of the bed, and then
actually the bottom line going across. You see about 3 things about this bottom right here. That line goes across the foot of the bed. This is below the bed.
Okay.
This line up here goes up at the head of the bed. But that's almost identical to the tree of life. In fact, we don't need to get too far into that. Once I just made that finding, I studied. That's when I started studying Kabbalah, because I knew this was a symbol in Judaism, in Jewish mysticism, a powerful symbol, and it's actually the center, the feature of of Kabbalah, or Kabbalah, as it's said in Hebrew. And so I studied everything I could find everything I was guided to find by rabbis mainly, that I asked about it. And all of a sudden, I got much more information about what this was. And what the tree of life is supposed to be the first act of creation. Before the physical world existed, it said that God's light permeated the universe, and it was so strong, nothing could exist in the physical world. But God desired to create. So God created a vacuum or a void in his light, in its light, let's say, to where there was no light. And he pierced that void with a single ray of light, because more than that, nothing else physical could exist. And he created that first center at the top, called a sephirah, or sphere, to hold the light. But then it cracked. It was still too strong, and it split apart into the masculine and feminine light. And each one cracked in turn, called the breaking of the vessels, that premise, until the whole thing was completed. But it was still incomplete. We completed. So everything everything in creation is supposed to be patterned after the tree of life. The tree of life is within us, it's around us, and it repeats itself endlessly in the energy of creation according to the teachings. with my work, I find that exactly.
And not only that, but that supports the idea that all these geopathic stresses we create, like, as you said, nature is here to support us. That supports that idea all the way through.
Oh, yeah.
The tree of life is all about life and goodness and positivity and growth and encouragement and awareness and enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
So that absolutely supports that idea. The next question, I'm fascinated by the Jewish mysticism that has impacted your dowsing so much and created essentially a wonderful process that you teach in your blessing processes, right? Because I know you have more than one blessing idea.
A ton. In my book, you mentioned the simple blessing process before we started the actual session here today. In my book, I just started a blessing to change energies because I found energies in my yard I wanted to change. I had already practiced hammering a rod into the ground and moving the energy. But then sometimes the detrimental energy would just go towards my neighbor's house. And I thought, what good is that? And then I practiced other things that I had learned. There are many things dowsers do to block, divert, or neutralize these energies. But I thought, if all these different systems and methods seem to work, why can't I just say a blessing to accomplish what I want to do and not just neutralize or block the energies, but make them beneficial? And it worked.
So again, we're getting to the difference between prayer and blessing. So
prayer, if you ask, the way we're typically taught, this is where I get on. Eventually, my blessings, as you go through my book, got longer and longer and longer. But then I realized that with my devoted students who, when they were came to be clients too, I realized their blessing wasn't working, even though they had memorized it. They had changed it in ways that disengaged
it changed the energy, the power of the energy.
They would say, send me energy rather than bless me or charge me with energy. That doesn't work. It's like sending you a letter and you don't get what's in the letter till you open it up. So this is my belief here. Most of us, through our religious teachings, are taught to either say blessings by rote recitation, such as Hail Mary or other Jewish blessings that eventually cease to have real meaning for us every time we say it, except we know we're supposed to be saying it. Or we're taught to say grace after meals, and usually grace is just thanks, right? If you just thank God for the food, you're not charging the food with the life force. But if you ask God to bless the food, you're charging it with the life force.
Oh, I get chills when I hear that.
Then
bless.
Now, and I can demonstrate this in person with muscle testing very easily. You can have any problem, any issue you want to resolve in your life. Let's say a negative issue, that's something you're troubled over. When you think about it, you'll test weak with muscle testing. Somebody puts it down on your arm. You can say, dear God, help me to resolve this issue. Help me to heal my relationship with my daughter. Is one of the ones I've been using for many years, not because I have a problem with my daughter, but I did it. I was discussing in my book one particular event because it helped me with anything. And you'll get a little stronger even when you think about the problem. But if you say, dear God, bless me with energy, or bless me and fill and charge me, or I like to use the word fill now. Fill me with energy in order to help me do the same thing. You'll test very strong when you muscle test, even when you're thinking negatively about the blessing. That'll last a little while. And so blessing, we are not taught to bless. I got a theory. My theory is through the ages, and it's all been forgotten, our religious teachers, our spiritual leaders in basically all traditions, including shamanic traditions, they didn't want us to know that we have this power within us. They want us to come to them to bless our St. Christophers, bless our mezuzahs as we're Jews, bless our sick family members or friends, bless our homes. When we can do all that,
Yes.
they want us to think we need holy men and women to do the blessing when we can bless ourselves. We can
Yes.
be blessing ourselves.
We have the divine spark within us, and those cruel teachings over time, I think, exacerbated the idea of separation. And so now we're learning that we are.
There are, I've done thousands of clearings with people over the phone and personally. Now, sometimes they're uncomfortable with using the word God, but I say anything, any higher power, the powers of the universe, the powers of nature, our creator, Father, Mother, God, whatever you want. As long as you address the divine in some way and recognize a higher power, and you call on that higher power to bless you and to help you do whatever you want to do, it works. And I have brought people back, not necessarily to their religion, but to faith in some higher power. And many people are using what I now simplified and now call the simple blessing process. I'd say hundreds or thousands of people are using it throughout their days. Just when they wake up in the morning, they bless themselves with the simple blessing process. You can find it online on my website. When they go to bed at night, they bless themselves. During the day, whenever they catch themselves stressing or caught up in any negative thought or emotion, I say, just let that remind you to bless yourself for that, whatever that issue is, with the simple blessing process. And people love it. This new blessing process that we'll eventually discuss a little bit before we end, I'm sure, does much more than that. And
one of the questions also I wanted to get back to and ask you, and it may sort of be irrelevant now that we've gotten through this, but there must have been a time in your life where you were so uncomfortable that you had to find something new to help you, because inspiration comes when we.
I mean, this thing this glass, I don't want it to break.
Yeah, inspiration comes in a couple of ways. We're either brought to our knees, right, or we're.
Okay, I got you. My dad died when I was 19. At that time, I was not prepared for his death. He was a Holocaust survivor, by the way, and I've gotten his memoirs published, and they're available today. It's called We Have It. It's available through Amazon, but it's better to get it from us because they print them for me, and this way you get a personal message from me.
And what was his name?
Abram Korn.
Okay.
He was a wonderful man. He survived 5.5 years through the Holocaust, lost all his family and his parent, all his immediate family and most of his extended family in those years, because he was in Poland. He lived in Poland. And he was brought up in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish tradition of what's called Ger Hasidim. He was a Ger Hasid from the region of the town of Ger, or the leader, the head Rebbe, I guess the way you put it, was from Ger. But anyway, I wasn't ready for his death, and I started feeling guilty because I didn't spend enough time with him. Why didn't I learn more about his experiences in the Holocaust? Why didn't I? I was just busy as an American teenager trying to fit in with other American teenagers. All of a sudden, I realized when he was dying how much he meant to me. And those next 2 years were very difficult. I just finished my first year at the University of Georgia in Athens. I was reared, you might call it, from the time I was a very young person. I went to work in my father, where he worked. It was my godfather's business, auto parts warehouse. When I was 5 years old, swatting flies for a nickel a fly on the front window. But anyway, I was raised to run the business. And I planned to go to college, learn what I could, work under his wing for many years and learn how to run it. Everybody knew it. They called me Little Abe when I was just 5, 6, 7 years old, working in the store. in a warehouse. Anyway, all of a sudden, I didn't have that. And my whole world came crashing around me. And so I got all these dis-eases between the ages of 19 and 21. I started, I didn't realize I was bringing it on myself. I thought, oh, I'm getting all the, this chest colds and congestion and bronchitis. My dad died of a chest, of a lung disease that he probably picked up from asbestos working on roofs in Auschwitz, that had been bombed from shrapnel, damaging the roofs. And I was like, not a happy person, and not happy with myself. And I was a little bit self-righteous in ways, like we don't need to go in that. But then I had this powerful mystical experience when I was 21. Some would call it maybe a nervous breakdown, but it was a true out-of-body experience. I left my body, or you could call it a near-death experience, but I didn't really die. In this experience, I actually left my body, but it wasn't like a lot of the wonderful things. It was wonderful before that. In this evening, I was just being awakened to all kind of new things for some reason, and understanding so much that I had no idea about, because I didn't believe in any of this woo-woo stuff, And all of a sudden, I started understanding things, and I was getting epiphany after epiphany. But then, when I finally left my body, it was like terrible. I was like in chaos, and I thought I was like tumbling out into space, thinking I was doomed to eternal damnation because of the way I lived in my life. But then I started thinking about my mother. These could get so long. I started thinking about my mother and my friends having to tell my mother that I died, and then I started thinking I didn't want to leave. My friends were there with me in the home while all this was going on. I started thinking about Jill, who we were only dating at the time, but I knew she was the one that I would spend the rest of my life with. And I didn't want to leave her, but I had no idea that I could come back because I was convinced I had died. And that, what I could say, unselfish loving intent, not to gain anything, not to return to my body because I didn't think I could, but that unselfish loving intent not to want to hurt my loved ones and leave them, brought me back. And the next thing I know, I'm outside my body, except it wasn't dead. It was actually standing doing this beautiful dance that I can't even replicate, in what I call total, in perfect rhythm, in perfect harmony with the rhythm of the natural rhythm of the universe. And somehow my eternal soul knew how to enter the body. And I entered my body, and I knew how to take control of it again. And from that experience, I learned so much.
Thank you for sharing that. And you know what? You're not the first person that's told me of the use of that love for others that brought them back.
You realize nothing else is, that's everything. But what's interesting, I somehow, and I can't even explain how, I knew God is. Whatever God is, and it matters how I live my life. And I realized that I had brought in all the diseases that had plagued my body with, and I realized they were like gone. I could just feel that they were gone. And I realized that I had an incorrect relationship with God, an incorrect relationship with others, my family especially, and an incorrect relationship with myself. And I knew that I could heal those relationships with love, and I also knew that I had to learn how to relax. And that's when I learned and meditate. And that's when I devoted myself to learning everything I could about the powers of mind, everything I could about energy and light that I had experienced that night during that wild, wonderful night. And it set me on my path. It set me on my spiritual path very soundly. And I wanted to know more about life itself. And it wasn't until, and I also knew I've been guided all my life. Didn't know it, but I realized it then. And that I knew that I would be guided for the rest of my life. And then I would just have to seek the guidance and look for it. And it came. So all the work that I do, my work is, I've always sort of swam upstream among the world of dowsers, among other dowsers. And it's all been given to me from within all the time. Everything that I do is taught from within. And I'm still getting that guidance. And
well, that's because you're, you are one that's open to learning more and more. You don't have it all. I mean, every time you think you've got it, you get something else. I got it. God shows you like, oh, really? Try this, let me help you with that. So
I know. Sometimes we learn through our terrible experiences. Many people that I've worked with. And you mentioned that it's something about, I don't consider myself a spiritual healer, but I can remove energy from people in their homes and bless the people in their homes to fill and surround them with beneficial healing energy rather than discordant energy that's causing all kind of problems. This energy that I've mentioned a couple of times, interference energy, once somebody attracts it, not only does it affect that person, since it sets up in the home, it affects all the energies of the home and all the people in the home. And what it primarily does is it greatly exacerbate any and all negativity. So if you're depressed, you're going to be more depressed. If you're angry, you're going to be more angry. Anybody that goes into rages that are way beyond what they're angry about, they have attracted interference energy, and removing it can really help with those rages. Anybody that it doesn't, some people lift out of depression after it's removed, but let's just say if you're depressed, you're going to be more depressed. So
let me ask you, when you work with this idea of the thoughts affecting the physical, like we're our own, we're the ones that create the issue, right? Have you ever come across where you've done this work and yet the physical system hasn't responded wholly and completely?
Well, again, I'm not a physical healer. I just take away the energies that are exacerbating all negativity, including symptoms of disease. If you're hurting, if you got pain, you're going to have more, it's going to be worse. If you've got discomfort, it's going to be worse. If you're whatever. So including symptoms of disease, it exacerbates it. Some people are affected greatly physically by the energy itself. In those people, most of the times it just completely goes away. But I don't heal people. I just, only God, right? Only God.
Right.
And, but I sort of create an opening for that to happen.
So do you believe that there's this concept idea of karma where, people may be working something out through their physical or not?
Yeah, but I don't believe in interfering in people's karma by praying for them and blessing them. There's a lot of people that believe that you shouldn't interfere in somebody's karma. Maybe they need to have this energy to get this problem to go through. I don't. Listen, if you're meaning good for people, a rabbi once put it really perfectly. I believed exactly what he said, but he came and I was honored. This Kabbalistic rabbi had his own center in Toronto, came to one of my weekend workshops on a Sunday, wouldn't come on Saturday. That's Shabbat. You can't do that. And we were at a restaurant, even though it was a bagel restaurant, he wouldn't eat with us because the food wasn't kosher, but he sat at a table. I heard him explain to the little group, God does not need our thanks. God does not need our praise. God needs nothing because God is everything. But God desires us to motivate the forces. That's what blessing does. We're motivating the forces. Mm-hmm. And God wants us to help others. I bless people. I bless people on the streets. You know, if I see they're obviously upset or very ill with some debilitating disease, or a wreck, you know, I bless the people in the wreck. I bless I turn off the radio. I slow down. I don't rubberneck and go look and try to watch. I bless everybody involved in the wreck, including if they're the police and the witnesses and the paramedics that might come out and whatever, to learn the lessons and to bring truth to I don't know. I spontaneously bless the people and things all the time.
Well, Joey, that that really inspires us to, not only what you say to up our faith, right? It instills faith in us that we can send blessings all the time to people. We don't have to have permission. You're not interfering with them in any way by sending a blessing. It's almost like sending a good wish.
Many years ago, I was teaching a little class in LA, and there was one older woman. Now she would be younger for me, but I was much younger at the time. But she was obviously well taken care of. With her, she came all dressed up, nice jewelry, nice hairdo. When all of us, that stuff was a real casual, right? So I'm teaching her about blessing objects to help people when they wear them, and making them basically amulets, working amulets. And she said, "Can I bless my husband's watch if he doesn't know it?" I said, "Sure, you can bless anything discreetly, as long as you're not trying to manipulate him." And she said, "Well, of course I'm trying to manipulate him." So as long as you have a good intent.
Yeah, it's the purity of heart. It's the
purity of heart. And my intent is, if nothing is supposed to happen, let nothing happen in this,
Yeah.
But bless. Jill's line is, when in stress, bless.
Yes.
And
while we wait, we meditate.
Right.
Well, it's just been such a great pleasure, Joey. Please tell us how we can get a copy of your wonderful book and the newest book, right? You're working on.
Right. I only sell the revised book. I also have an all-day workshop now from a few years ago on DVD. And I'm getting somebody's coming with a whole set of 3 cameras, going to assume next month is going to video an entire retreat. And we'll break some parts of it as like little portions to put online, but we're also going to turn it into a whole retreat workshop.
So remind us of your book name.
The book name is Dowsing, and the subtitle is A Path to Enlightenment.
Great.
I don't consider myself enlightened, but I'm on the path. I'm always working to be more and more enlightened.
We're waking up. Right.
I've got a workshop on DVD. Anyway, my website is dowsers.com. That's DOWSERS.com. People can reach me at 706-733-0204, especially if they want to order something. But you can order online books, my dowsing tools, other books, spiritual books. I carry a line of books by Walter Russell, who was a great inspiration to me. He wasn't a dowser as far as I know. And for those who might be from outside of the U.S. and outside of Canada, that's our number. But within the U.S. and Canada, if they have to pay for the call, I have an 800 number. It's 877-DOWSING. You just spell out Dowsing. 877-369-7464.
Well,
And you can also learn all about my remote session work. When I do remote sessions as of June, because you've already experienced this new blessing process that I do, in the 14 years since I found interference energy, which is the primary energy I clear in every single session, I've only known one way to clear it, and I never could teach it to anybody. I just wasn't able to teach it. And I thought, I got to come up with an easier way. Well, I finally came up with an easier way that I could teach it to all my retreatants. It's worked for everybody so far, 2 retreats in a row. Then I came up with a way, I think I need to come up with a way anybody can, even if they're not dowsers, can clear this energy from themselves and from their family members and even beyond that. And it came to me. Once I put my intent, after all the understandings through all the experience I've had, I was able to come up with a shortcut. You might call it the longer, short way. The long, shorter way. You got to go the long way for many years before you really know how to take the shortcut. And so when I have a session with somebody now, I not only I teach them to clear themselves, and I don't do any of the clearing except for the end. I just make it a little bit better. Once I guide them through the new process, send them, and they read the blessing and do the blessing as I instruct, it works.
well, I can say that I have tried it and I have found success with it, and I'm so grateful to you.
Did it help your sleep?
Oh, I slept beautifully. I started dreaming again. So thank you.
You know, I know we're already a little long, aren't we? What?
Well,
But I want to share one story with you.
okay.
A few years ago, a woman called me that many intuitives and people that use other modalities of healing refer people to me when they sense that they have energy problems that are causing their problems. One couple had been told for a year to call Joey by this one therapist. And they had a daughter that ever since she was about 1 year old, she was then 3, she was terrified of everything. She would scream, wake up in terror, and what the doctors call night terrors, every night, several times a night, could not be comforted. This couple, they couldn't take her anywhere because every new experience, every new person, every new thing terrified her. She kept talking about a monster in her closet. Interestingly, the interference energy shows up in bathrooms and a closet for some reason. And when you read that article, Things That Go Bump at Night, it explains what happens with that interference energy, why the energy problems are there, why it's called Things That Go Bump in the Night. But anyway, this little girl, this couple did not have a life because they didn't have a little girl. You know, they didn't have a normal little girl. Anytime she would go in to take a shower, she would pass out, or a bath, she'd pass out for some reason. Remember, it's interference energy also sets up in bathrooms. It took a little extra work because we won't go into the details. But finally, I got to the cause of the problem. I removed it, and overnight, she changed. Well, they are still my subscription clients. The girl, all of us, last year they took her on a trip across Europe, and the only problems they had was when they came home, they'd imprinted themselves in. Anyway, the point is, she's now a normal little girl, goes to school for her grade that she's supposed to be in. She plays with her cousins and friends like a normal little girl, and she's happy like a normal little girl. Wow. She still wakes up sometime, but she's never terrified. And they just feel like they've got their little girl back, and she's just like a little girl now. And now it's probably, I think she's 7 or 8 now. And I've got another little girl, almost the same thing happened after one session with me. And people's whole lives change. So
is that based on the bed pattern clearing? Is that
no,
one of the things?
yes, because it's based on removing the interference energy. And the reason the bed pattern is still still the central feature of my work is I can tell from extra imbalances in the bed pattern. There's a typical set of imbalances, but let's say discordant energy in a person's energy pattern, which is they imprint around their beds, just really around their bodies. And I can tell by checking the bed pattern or human energy pattern imprinted around the bed if there's any significant imbalances caused by energy problems. It could be elsewhere through their imprint in other places like hotel rooms, doctor's offices, hospitals, whatever.
But at 3 years old, where would she have been printed? The hospital?
No, they went to see.
Oh, they took her somewhere.
And when she was 1, they went to see a family that had a cousin of the father. That it was a little more deeper than that, but we don't have time.
Right.
It was that the father of the cousin had died tragically in an accident. And there was that brought in, let's say the version is that brought interference energy into that home. Somehow this little 1-year-old, even she got imprinted there. And when I found that and removed the interference energy and removed the imprint of the little girl, she changed overnight.
I love working with kids. That's a wonderful story. They're so empathic and they're so open, and
I especially like helping autistic children. And autistic adults, but it always begins as children.
Right. Well, Joey, those are magnificent stories of healing. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, I could fill up a lot more time.
We're excited.
More stories.
Well, it's such a pleasure to speak with you. You're just a master, really you are. You have a lot of wisdom to share, and we look forward to more of that in the future.
Yeah, I'll keep sharing.
Yeah, keep sharing with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll keep sharing.
And be sure and check out Joey's website, Dowsers,
gotta be plural.
Dowsers with an S.
.com.
.com, right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda.